got the news about the vaccine, the allergy warnings that we've covered with Dr. Hillary. We're going to be talking about that later as well. But Kevin, one thing we wanted to pick up on was this situation about where we're heading. We've got this warning in Wales that the numbers there are shooting up, it seems. 2,238 new COVID cases. It's a record daily high. They are warning people to rethink Christmas plans. It might risk higher deaths and hospitalisations in January as a consequence. We're also looking at the numbers here in London. Sadiq Khan is urging Londoners to follow the rules and avoid Tier 3. And the fears are that London will be moving up to Tier 3 as soon as that review comes next week.
That's right. I think it's next Wednesday, isn't it? And 21 of the 32 London boroughs are above the national average for England. And out of London overall has got a higher rate than Tees Valley, Bristol, Leicestershire, which are in Tier 3. When you lift restrictions, people begin mixing again, which is far more of that in Tier 2 than there is in Tier 3. Then the rate goes up. That's how this dreadful, fatal illness is transmitted. But London goes into Tier 3. That's a large part of the economy hit again. It doesn't go into Tier 3. Then the rest of the country will be thinking, is there special treatment for London and the capital? Now, the government has 5 criteria when it makes the decisions. One of them is hospitals, it's the rate, which way it's going, what about vulnerable groups and so on. But there's always a judgment element in the middle of it. And whatever happens in London, I would have thought this is the time when Boris Johnson should be thinking about or rethinking his Christmas plans, a kind of 5-day free-for-all, which Chris Whitty, the Chief Medical Officer in England, said they're really worried what will happen in January and February. There's a vaccine on its way. A vaccine on its way, but we could see the death toll go up before then because of recklessness.
Inaya, could you see the government rolling back on the idea that families can be together for 5 days over Christmas because of those concerns? Would Boris Johnson do that?
I'm not sure. I think it is a possibility, but I think that, again, the reality is, you know, we've had politicians, we've had journalists, we've even had scientists breaking the lockdown rules. I think, you know, it has been nearly a year and it is incredibly difficult for people, particularly at a time yet where the weather's cold, where this is a kind of celebratory time for many families. I think that many people are trying their best, but these are incredibly difficult times. And I think that the break that has been said, which is the kind of short Christmas break, is just a tiny little relief for families after having pretty much a year of separation and often loneliness for a lot of people. And so I have a lot of sympathy for that situation.
Well, that's the current situation in the UK at the moment. Samira, Rafaela, how is it where you are? What's the planning for families to get together at Christmas and how that will work?
Yes, well, if I take, for example, my own country, the Netherlands, it doesn't look too positive right now. So it looks like that also during the holidays, we cannot spend a lot of time with our families, with our friends, or at least not many family members or many friends. So still we will need to deal with restrictions, and hopefully beginning next year we can also start with a vaccine. But these are all things that we really need to wait for and need to become clear. And the priority right now is that we have numbers that are showing that it's going in the right direction.
Do the Dutch people, Samira, feel like the Dutch government have led them clearly and they've offered up the right information at the right time? Because there is real criticism of the way that our government has handled things throughout the whole of the pandemic. Obviously, it's a very movable feast and has been a difficult situation to preempt. But always the sense has been if they take people with them, if they explain the situation, then people understand and people comply. What's the feeling been from the Dutch people to their government and how they've handled it?
Yeah, well, I think that was a challenge for all governments dealing with this crisis. It's definitely not easy, but I do see that the Dutch government now is investing a lot in communicating and making sure that people get the right information. There's of course a lot of coverage in the media about all the developments. So I see them working hard for it, and I do see in my direct environment that people are getting the picture and they understand that they also need to apply the rules so that, you know, hopefully we have a better situation next year. But I see a common understanding here in the Netherlands, definitely.
And one last thing, have you had a vaccine cleared to be used over there? Because, of course, we know that the UK was the first country to be given permission to use a vaccine. And what was the reaction from Holland towards the fact that we have clearance and the vaccines has already started here?
Yeah, I think the Netherlands is specifically looking at, of course, also its own situation in relation to what's happening now in the rest of Europe and the world. And that's, I believe, logical to look at your own situation specifically. And based on that, they are working on a planning, they are working on a timeline. And like I said, it is being expected that at the beginning of next year, we can start.
So you still haven't got one just yet. Well, look, we're going to have to leave it there, but we appreciate your time this morning. That's Dutch MEP Samira Rafaela. And good to have Kevin and Inaya with us as usual.
Thanks very much.